right now, and Fletcher, what was part 1? Fletcher doesn't remember part 1. Dave, what was part 1? Correct, Dave. Jeff, what was part 2?
Part 2 of the complete history of communism was the Paris Commune of 1871.
Correct,
Part
Jeff.
3 was the Russian Revolution of 1917. Part 4 is communism in China. I'm now at last up to complete history of communism Part 5, communism in North Korea. Well, here's a question. Can you see it better if I show it to you on the actual artwork like this, or if I show it to you on the little movie theater behind me like this? With the artwork.
The people in the front row say they like the comic on the newsprint, but the people in the back seem to like...
People in the back don't see
I think there's more people in the back.
All right. Well, I think the majority of people will see it a little clearer if I have the projection. So maybe I'll do the book in another environment. I have a few of these books in my bag. I also have a few different films on the projection. So it's every night we try to decide what will be able to be seen better. So I guess we'll do the projection for this one.
No.
No, says the guy in the front. Yes, says the guy in the back. You can't please everybody. No matter what you do, somebody's angry at you.
You should just get a drink. It's long.
Oh, it is very long, actually, so be prepared. It's long, it's boring, it's academic, it's educational. Korea is a mid-sized land, surrounded by China and Russia and Japan. A humble nation surrounded by 3 mighty forces. Long ago it was known as the Hermit Kingdom, isolated from the world but self-sufficient. Korea had its own language and inventions and resources. But when the rest of the world reached colonial times, Europe and Japan both wanted that colonial prize. East and West wanted Korea. Who would win? It was Japan that annexed Korea in 1910. And life under the Japanese was cruel, but Korean landlords and police helped them rule. The vicious Japanese imperialists and the richest Koreans collaborated. The first Korean communist was a woman in Russia, Alexandra Kim. She was killed by the Japanese, but some Koreans joined in. Maybe communism could get rid of the Japanese that they all hated. The Korean Communist Party was just a few people at best, but one was Kim Sang-ju, a teenage student who got arrested. When Kim got out, he fled and joined Mao's Chinese army. He fought in China, not Korea, but he fought the Japanese. So a legend spread back in Korea about a Korean army commander fighting in China. Kim Il-sung, meaning become the sun, became the new name of this star. And when Kim was the last commander alive in his whole section, and the Japanese had his troops down to just a fraction, he led his last men to safety across a river to the USSR. And so the next chapter in Kim Il-sung's life began. He left Mao's army and was retrained as a Soviet army man. He fought in Stalin's army all through World War II, and when the Japanese were crushed, it was Korea's dream come true. But like Germany after the Nazis were finished, Korea was also in question when the Japanese vanished. Would it be the communist East or the capitalist West that would give them direction? So just like the new East and West Germany, a similar decision fell to cut Korea in half along the 38th parallel. The North to Stalin's Russia and the South to America's protection. And Stalin picked Kim Il-sung to be the leader in the North. Sigmund Rhee was the South leader that America put forth. And through the late 40s was a big propaganda fight. Both called the other a puppet, and both were sort of right. Well, one big problem with North Korea, to be fair, was there were very few Korean communists even there. The leaders were mostly foreigners from China and from the Soviet Union. But then on the other hand, one big problem with South Korea, to be fair, was America put back in power all the rich Koreans there. The bad ones who collaborated with Japan came back to rule them. Another irony is that Korea did have its own communist party, but they were based down in the south where they just couldn't get things started. Meanwhile, both leaders were like pawns hoping to be kings. Both wanted permission to attack the other and conquer everything. In 1950, Kim got Stalin's permission and sent the North Korean troops across the border on a mission. The weak South Koreans fled, just like Kim hoped was going to happen. But Kim underestimated how much America was committed. He thought the U.S. wouldn't send troops into Korea, but they did. So it was his turn to flee back north because it was America's excuse to see him flattened. But then it was quickly America's turn for a disastrous turnabout. We hadn't thought the giant communist Chinese army would come out. So the Korean War was really Americans versus Chinese, with Korea in the crossfire of this mini World War III. Well, we reinforced with new technologies like napalm, but the Chinese seemed endless. There was talk of using an A-bomb, and for 3 awful years there was slaughter, and neither side was winning. Till China and America both backed off because they were even, but with millions of Koreans dead and cities destroyed for no reason, the country was divided exactly the same as after the war was beginning. And Kim still wanted more power, but still needed Russia and China's help. The only rivals he could get rid of were Korean communists themselves. He told everyone to believe in Juche, his new philosophy of self-reliance, and he did improve North Korea's economy and science. So North Korea prospered for a time, but by the 70s it started to decline. Old Kim picked his son, Kim Jong-il, to lead in case of his departure. And North Korea even started nuclear power programs, but the economy just kept slowing and slowing. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, they lost their most important economic partner. And just like a metaphor for the growing problems of his past, old Kim grew a neck tumor that had to crop out of photographs. In fact, it grew so large it got in fistfights with his kid. Okay, that part didn't really happen, but it would have been crazy if it did. Nowadays, North Korea is a hermit kingdom once again, ruled by Kim Jong-il and his army men, isolated from the world, but even worse than it had been in the past. But if North Korea can't continue to get rid of its nuclear programs tomorrow, it can still be an example for the rest of the world to follow. Maybe sanctions will lift, the people will rise and make their own fate at last.